Hello guys, welcome to the second episode of Spec Chat. It's December 2023. There's going to be lots to discuss. This is another very long one. First one was about 2 hours, 40 minutes. It's probably going to be around the same amount for this one. If you don't want to skip anything, everything will be bookmarked. Going to be discussing the two most recent tournaments we're going on. Warlords 2, we had the finals that just had finished up. And then, of course, our Cartographers, which was a quick 2-week event hosted by the Viper. We're then going to be having an overall year-end review since it is December, and then having a quick look ahead at the Age of Empires 2 Community Awards. We're going to have a short little quiz section, and we'll be diving deeper into that in January. We're going to have a few tournament shoutouts, and then we're going to be finishing off the NAC5 and the new balance changes coming up. Anyway, let's get over to the video and let's get started.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the second episode of Spec Chat. It is the 6th of December, 2023. We're only a couple of weeks ahead from our previous one, but it will be a little bit. Well, every month we'll be doing it at a different time, so it won't exactly be like 4 weeks from the last. If you're a new listener, thank you very much for joining in, and if you're a returning listener, welcome back. I'm of course joined today by my two co-hosts, my favourite Frenchman. Not that that would be very hard. It's just a joke. I'm joined by Tarzus.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by my favourite South African, but I don't know many South Africans, so that's not saying very much. I'm joined by Young Panda.
Hello.
For episode 1, thank you if you left any feedback, guys. Especially Hardy left a very detailed post on AoE Zone. Please, if you do have any feedback, don't delay and leave a comment and let us know what we can improve. Hopefully things have improved a little bit this time. The audio levels perhaps were not great, so hopefully it'll be better this episode out. And I think the episode length was potentially a little bit long. We did waffle a little bit. But remember, the bookmarks are at the bottom in the description if you want to skip to any part of the podcast. We also have all the links and the references in there if you want to go and find anything and have a look for yourself. And the best way to kind of help us is just share the video with some like-minded individuals on Discord. On Reddit would be fantastic. There's obviously a massive audience there on Twitter, wherever you want. And of course, thumbs up, leaving a comment, and subscribing is always very good and very easy for you to do it as a viewer. Now, on to our first topic of the day, and it's going to be Warlords 2, which of course just finished about a couple of weeks ago now. And we're going to have to go over the last 8. As from episode 1, that was our transition period, so we caught the end of the group stage, then we had our predictions for the last 8. So let's have a quick look at the results. So just pull that up.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about the final results first. So Hera won their tournament against Tato in the final. I think it was a 5-3 victory for him, and it marked like the fourth S-tier tournament the fourth S-tier tournament he has won in a row this year. So yeah, like after the group stage where he looked very strong, but dropped a set against Yo, he has been very dominant in the playoffs and won the tournament. I think Viper took third place, beating Yo in the third place match, and obviously Taro beating Viper in the semis and finishing runner-up to Hera.
Yeah,
we had different opinions on what would happen, I think. According to the predictions.
We kind of did. Predictions-wise, the quarterfinals were all very similar for us. I think we all had the right winner, but we didn't quite get the right result. So the big kind of surprises of the quarterfinals was Yo only just beating Jordan 4-3, and Tato sneaking past the Master Begets Tato 4-3.
I did say Sito.
You did say yes.
Get good momentum those last 2 series.
But you didn't predict the 4-3.
I got 4-2.
You did get a
Close
4-2.
enough. Yeah, it was a. I actually don't think I caught that one. I'm trying to think when this was.
Looking at the playoff bracket, it looks like Jordan and Sito were the standout performers of the quarterfinals. So every favorite won their match. I think perhaps Hera 4-0, 4-1 against Leary was somewhat surprising, even though recently those matches have been more one-sided. But definitely Jordan and Sito managing to take Yo and Taro respectively to the final game were very strong performance from these players.
Yeah. The Leary one was a bit of a surprise to me. I think I had 4-2 down for that. It didn't look in best shape, and maybe expected Velez to do a little bit better. Semi-finals were very straightforward, I think, for the most part. Even Tato, I think, looked very, very good against Viper. And then it left us with the final, and I think the final was potentially one of the best series of the year.
It was really good, and the scoreline, even I mean, a 5-3. It could have easily have been a 5-4 for Tato if one or two decisions went his way, right? If you think that migration game, for example, or the arena
game.
yeah,
The arena game was,
I actually
yeah.
In my stat sheet that I keep for myself, I actually put the win in for Tato because that's how convinced I was. Like in his position, it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna cruise, and then just suddenly Hero pulls it back. I'm like, whoa, okay, that just happened. It was, there was some really really good games.
Yeah, I think the arena game, especially if you haven't saw it, is definitely one to go back and watch, because probably a moment you're like, there's no way Hera can really win this game. And for some reason, or somehow, he does end up pulling it out the bag. What other game was interesting there? The Alpine game, probably for me, which did have a bit of an issue there. But Tarzus, what was he wanted to say, sorry?
Yeah, I was gonna say about the arena game. I think it's like a very typical Hera game and a very typical Hera victory. And it shows, it highlights his. I think what is probably his main strength as a player. It's his capacity to like always defend, and while he's defending, keeping his eco growing and active somehow, which is like always super impressive when he does that, like even under crazy pressure.
He's really really good at that.
Yeah, I think probably the best defensive player we have in the game right now, which is kind of always known to be Viper, but I think Hera's just obviously a different level currently.
Currently, yeah, for sure.
We had that interesting thing happen in the Alpine game with the walls.
I know, so that's another thing to go and watch back if you have not yet. You might have seen some like clips of it or some images of out of context. From a horse ended up killing a villager, even though horses cannot attack villagers.
Yeah.
That was a 1 in a million chance of it happening.
So
has it been figured out? What happened?
Yes. So T West, I saw a clip how he did it. So basically, what happens is if you with the villager attack the horse, and this is only possible, as far as I understand it, with a villager. So the villager attacks a horse, and then you task it to do something else. The horse retaliates and does damage to you. So what happened there is Tato accidentally clicked the horse to attack when he wanted to build on his palisades. And then when I misclicked, he retasked it to the palisade, and then the horse attacked back, and Tato's horse, not Tato's villager was on 1 HP, and then it died. So it's such a 1 in a million chance of that happening in a tournament game where everyone sees it and the villager dies.
Because the horse has no attack value in theory, but
exactly,
it doesn't at least 1 damage, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no even attack, like there's nothing for attack values in the game, in the Genie editor that I know of for a horse. It's such a random thing to happen. And I don't think you'll ever see that happen again.
it's so wild that we got it to be seen live because Capture Age
Yes.
showed that as like a kill for a horse. And like so like people were wondering like is it the Capture Age bug? What happened? But no, Capture Age
Maybe
is very
deleted
reliable.
it.
So
Or
like
like,
that
yeah, we wouldn't have even
was
caught that
a really
without
great moment.
Capture Age.
And one of the quirks of that make the game so endearing, I think, today.
Yes.
Endearing potentially for a viewer, I think, as a player with thousands on the line and yeah, like a major championship. To me, that is very, very. It's very disheartening, to be honest. I think that is not really a standard that we should be aiming for, and it'd be a shame for something like for that to happen again. That was just like that
So I
was
agree on principle. I feel like it didn't change anything to this game. The villager had 1 HP, and I think actually Tato said that he thought that he tasked to build a palisade, and then he
yeah.
did something else, came back, saw the villager was dead, but he had already considered the villager dead at this point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't really see or knew what happened, but he absolutely didn't care about that. He was already focusing on other things. So
Which
it didn't change the outcome of the game.
yeah,
But like these kind of edge bugs have the potential to do that. So yeah.
exactly right. And like Tato is got a very strong mindset where you could brush it off, and it wasn't like it impacted the game too much. What I'm more concerned of is it happening at a critical moment, and then like really affecting someone's gameplay for like the following games, and being like, obviously
Yeah.
that's just part of competition, but like can't really play. Generally, can't really plan for those kind of things happening too much, especially a very odd bug like that. Bad pathings to be expected now, but even
Yeah.
that does induce some rage at times, to say the least.
I went crazy a couple of weeks ago for bad thing. My crossbows walked towards a mangonel around a gold when they were already like halfway around. They just like backtracked, and I was like, no, 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 go away. It was, and I didn't want to change direction back to where I wanted them, so I was scared.
The regrouping is very, very bad at the moment, to say the least, and definitely had a part to play in Warlords 2. We'll kind of see if it has anything to play in future tourneys and depending potential well, not a hot fix. A balance change will come, but balance changes usually mean their own issues. So let's see, though. We'll kind of touch on that as we progress through today. The final scores on the predictions was a win for Tarzus. I think he got 7 points overall because he actually was the only
Expected.
one to get a Hera victory. But it would be very cool if we all just done the same thing, right? So
Yeah.
you well done. But predicting a Hera victory isn't exactly ballsy. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. I think I'm happy about the correct prediction of Tato beating Viper in the semi. And I think I had the only thing I got wrong was I had Yo over Viper in the third place match, and obviously all of my scores were bad. I think.
Mm-hmm.
You're close on the final, 5-2.
Yeah.
And it was 5-3. So
I did say 5-3, but I just said it was going to be 5-3 to you.
I did 3-5 against Hera. I'm too big a Viper fanboy, I guess.
Well, yes, that's not news to anybody. You're always there, working. Okay, so that was Warlords 2. Any final thoughts on that one, Net? I watched a decent amount of the tournament. I did enjoy it. Especially as
I
a
would like
Nomad
to
one.
see more of it. That would be my comment. Like, I hope it continues. For me, it's one of the more interesting tournaments to watch, personally, at least. And there's like the map categories, even though don't necessarily agree with all the categories, right? Like what is placed where and the maps, but like it's still it's so much big variety in the end compared to a normal Arabia only tournament or arena only tournament. So for me at least, I like variety a lot. So seeing different maps is always is always a highlight. So I hope Mem continues with this, and we have a Warlords 3 next year.
Well, he did say
Yeah.
at the end that he is gonna be still hosting more tournaments after maybe semi-small scare, but that's all been put to bed. Seems pretty happy with the result. Tarzus, any final thoughts on Warlords?
No, I think it was I think it was a great event. Really good 1v1 event to finish the year and to look forward to next year and everything. I think it had. I think Warlords also did like a great job at highlighting how strong the like let's say the top 16 players are. So like we've had a lot of back and forth in like the mid range of the group, the Swiss group. Like some players beating another one in and then losing to some guy beaten by the first one, like something like that in the early rounds. And I think it was very fun to watch that and see how closely matched like let's say number 6 to number 12 are in the scene at the moment. I think it's very healthy and it's very fun to see. But yeah, like great event. Love seeing the variety, like Panda said. uh, yeah.
I think that's always a key part for me. Is the big, well, not necessarily a big map build, but a map build that's varied, and most of the maps being played. And we did get to see most of the maps, which was always nice when a map build that size, because sometimes you just don't see certain maps that are kind of a little bit crazy. But anyway, we had a 1 day gap, if I remember correctly. Then we moved on to the Cartographers 2v2 event, hosted by the Viper, adminned by Ward Petito, who does a lot for EGC TV on AOE4, T West, and Ornlu, I believe. Kind of a successful event. GL Honey Badgers won in this one. Admittedly, I didn't watch too much of it because I'm kind of in this. I was casting a lot, some other events, and I was really struggling just to find the time. So I'm going to pass this one over to Young Panda because I think Panda probably watched the most out of the three of us.
Potentially. I did not watch as much as I would have liked because the coverage was a bit all over the place, which and not as a diss to Viper. It is something that is nice when you have a caster hosting an event. You know when everything's happening and it will be covered. And like I know I go and tune into Mim and there's something. So it was a bit like not everything was covered, but in the end, once we got to the round of 16,
Quarterfinals maybe. Yeah.
Even the round of 16 had some really. That's where it started really with the aftermath. Good luck, have fun. OGLHF team that was Licks and Bad Koala. They had. There's this. See, for me, I tuned into this game. Series after game one was kind of like finished, and I heard apparently Bad Koala made 9 scouts and he lost them all by only killing 1 spearman on Row Rage. And that sounds like the worst start possible as the scouts player. And somehow they won, and then they were 2-0 up suddenly. And what happened then, Klausis?
Yeah, and then after that, Aftermath started the reverse sweep, winning Migration, El Dorado, and Arabia to take the series, which is a trend that they actually have kept on for, at least the next round, where they played against Swarmy. So, like, already, so Vilese and the Max, who maybe not are playing as much as they used to, but still a very strong duo, one of the, let's say, like, legendary duos of the end of Woobly / early Definitive Edition era.
There's a statement.
And yeah, well, I stand by it. They used to play in teal and orange and Woobly all the time together. Nowadays they have to pick like the host colors or whatever. But
blue and green.
So like they were also up 2-0 against Aftermath, but Aftermath managed to win the set, go on to win the semifinal against you and Vivi, 200 kilos, and then make the finals where they lost to Viper and Jordan. Jordan, who seemed to be having like a really good run of form at the moment. So
Small
We know that
resurgence.
like a couple months ago, Jordan quit playing full time Age of Empires. Went well, not playing full time, maybe, but quit streaming full time, and he went back to working a regular 9 to 5 job, and so he streams occasionally. I think not that much, and he plays on top of his day job. And I think the impact was noticeable during T90's Titan League, where he didn't make the playoff. And actually, at some point, there was like a doubt whether he would remain in his group. Still managed to do that. And then after that, he made top 8 in Warlords, went 4-3 against Yo, and then made the final and won Cartographers with Viper. So, do you guys think he plays better now that he's not full time?
Yeah.
I think he said so himself. There's less pressure.
I mean, it's way less pressure. You don't have to worry about money. Like, he's not a full-time player. You said the right thing. He's a full-time streamer. And when you're worrying month to month about, am I going to have enough money to pay rent or whatever it is? And he lives in does he live in Munich?
Munich.
Yeah.
So one of the most expensive cities in Germany.
So, like, super expensive. And to be honest, like, Jordan never had super high sub numbers anyway, or especially not in the last kind of number of months. So to have that kind of on your mind month to month, like, like obviously it's gonna play a part in your performance. So like having that nagging in the back of your brain all the time. But now he's working full time with Mercedes, can probably take a bit of a step back, enjoy the game a little bit more, a little bit less stress. It's
more focused in a sense. Like you're not just grinding every day. So
but
when you're playing, it's playing for a specific purpose, which would be preparing.
So, what I wonder is if it is not something like some sort of like honeymoon period. So like what I mean is when you're playing full time, you have all the time in the world to like put in the grind, and like obviously like the streaming part is clearly creating some stress that you have to meet those goals. Otherwise, you're not gonna have the money to survive. But at the same time, it also gives you a lot more time to play, to practice, to get to this like really high level that you need to be at to perform in tournaments. So now that he has just quit the streaming, he has this security of the job that takes the stress off. But also it means that he's gonna have less and less time to actually practice and play the game. And so maybe at the moment he has all the advantages of not being full time streaming, in the sense that his level is still very high, so he can still compete with the best, and he doesn't have the stress, so he's playing stress free and he's having great results. But maybe in like 6 months, when like if the others put like twice the hours, is he gonna be able to keep his level, or is he gonna like suffer the effects of not being full time? This is more like what I'm wondering. But yeah, it's very inspiring to watch him play at this level right now.
and I guess if you're working full time when you do log on to like play the game, you're probably like hyper focused on what you want to do. You're not just playing for the sake of it. I mean, that's me just like speculating, but it's probably the way I would approach it. Just generally how it works, like in sports. You know, you have to be if you want to like achieve something to compete at a very high level and you have less hours, you have to be you have to be very focused and very specific in terms of like what you want to do and how you're going to train.
And I think it's something that he's very good at. Like I think it's his mental game has always been very strong, and he has this like determination that he's gonna make the most of the time he has.
Yeah, and also I think it because like for example, the game's pathing is not that great at the moment, right? So when you're not playing the game like every day, it's less discouraging as well.
Yeah.
So your mental state about the game is also a bit better. So it doesn't like bring you down a bit. Oh, and I have to go play a tournament with this bar thing, but for example, and that also helps you be in a more like clear mind state when playing and when you need to like perform. So
you know, I had not even considered that, but now you've said it, it does make sense. And like Marguga
Oh,
made
I've been through that.
yeah, like Marguga made
Uh,
a tweet. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. He was like, "I am so frustrated with this." It was something along the lines of like, "I'm so frustrated with the game right now. I don't even want to play it.
Yeah.
The pathfinding is awful. I think I'm just gonna go and play League of Legends for like the next month." So
Yeah, I said see you in 2024.
yeah. So
I actually
Marguga's pulling
had
Yeah.
ahead.
I had
Then
also.
then again, yeah, I was gonna say there's also like to every aspect of that. There's also like a counter. So like at some point your dead job might also impact your performance. Like if you're stressed for work and or if you have like a busy week or something, you're super tired, you just want to relax. But no shot. You have to play like this very high stake series, or you have
Hmm.
to get in this like really high quality practice. So yeah, it's like it's still tricky, but like at the moment it's still it seems to be uh it seems to be suiting him well, and I think
Yeah,
that's probably what it boils down to. Everyone is different, and maybe for Jordan this is what works.
I guess the key thing is working right now. How long is it gonna last? And hopefully it lasts a while for him. He's able to keep it going.
Yeah.
We touched on Margugu there. Do we want to just talk about the kind of like the upsets of the tournament? We did have the La France team, which was Margugu and Sato, and was kind of earmarked to maybe cause something in the tournament.
A good
Yeah.
run, and then they ran into the magical duo of ACCM and Slam.
It's very that does
Which,
sound magical, in fairness.
yes, it
Yes.
is indeed. I was as a that was a really good series. I remember it was I don't think I watched the first game. I was doing something else, but like I remember the Pacific Islands thing, which I mean, usually you think like, oh, Pacific Islands, and then Slam just does this human 2TC boom, and then kind of gets himself to Paladin and steamrolls on it. And I didn't even think the map would play out like that. I was like, oh yeah, no, this probably like they're gonna lose this game. Like humans on a water map, it's not something you'd really think of, and I don't think Pacific Islands has that much fish in general compared to like the other migration type map
It does
migration
not.
itself.
The fish is
Yeah,
very, very sparse. You do start with a
yeah,
transport though. There's lots of food on the two islands, so Slam
yeah.
cooked something up there, like for sure.
And then they had the last game when that's it on Eastern Coastline,
Yeah.
where at one stage Magugu was winning water against ACCM. He had like a big army lead, and then suddenly he was 10 war galleys behind from a bad. I think that was also like bad pathing where the movement didn't go as he expected it to be, and he lost lots of units in a retreat or something, and it kind of swung water. And then while Slam was holding with on
Yeah.
land against Ito with Genitors against Elite Mangadai, that was something you see every day. Like the
Yes.
unit itself, which was pretty nice, especially at this level.
So yeah, I think so. Interestingly, there was not really many upsets in this tournament, and maybe this one was like the only upset like out of the round of 16, I think. But it's hardly also an upset, like considering the players. Morgu and Sito were seed 6, ACCM and Slam were seed 11. But maybe individually, I think they're probably better 1v1 players. Um, and or maybe it's close. So Sito and Morgu, they have a wealth of experience playing together, even though they might be like slightly worse 1v1 players than ACCM and Slam, even though it's close. So I think they were maybe slight favorites to win the game, but it wasn't to win the set, but it wasn't clear cut. But what I was going to say about the series is that it maybe highlighted some of the pitfalls that the French team sometimes falls into, in the sense that the Colosseum game is like the French. It was an embodiment of how the French approach this like open style maps. They play very aggressive. They have this very clean execution. They play together, and they absolutely dominated this game.
It was a
And then on
clap.
Eastern Coastline, it starts the same. You see Margu, he's playing water. He has the Vikings against ACCM's Koreans, and his execution is like super clean, and he starts dominating, takes the better water fights, and come Castle Age, he has like a big lead, and then he makes like one mistake, like kind of one bad decision, and the water swings back big time into ACCM's favor, who doesn't relent and doesn't let it go. And eventually it wins them the game, because even though Sito had like a small edge over Slam, Slam was able to like hold until his team was able to land and cause havoc and Sito's economy and all that, and Margu was out of the game. But yeah, that was a very good set. And Magical Duo, I think they went on to lose 3-2 against Honey Badger, so Viper and Jordan. So definitely a good showing by them.
And we had a lot of maps in the tournament. We've kind of touched on them a couple already. Some people haven't probably heard of. Eastern Coastline being one. Probably some people don't even know about Colosseum, which is like Arabia on steroids. What was the other one there? Pacific Islands. But there was a lot of different ones. Seen Rockside quite a bit. Row Rage was also in Delicious, which is a nice map to watch. Water Nomad, which I'm sure lots of people were fuming about. And we had maps like Zawal and some
The
other bits
Wall
and bobs.
produced really good games. Actually, think I like it more in 2v2s than 1v1s. I'm gonna get the pitchforks for this, but that's my opinion. From what I've saw, like all the games on it were really good, and it delivered. Especially, I don't know if anyone watched the Amigos against GL series, the Dart and Tattoo team, where
No.
So Ganji went for Teuton monks and Valas went for Hussite wagons with Bohemians. And Tato basically defended with 2 stable light cav while Dao just boomed with Goths. And he just boomed into condos. And it was a really like impressive how Tato tried to defend as long as possible or distract as long as possible for Dao to get that boom going, and that just hits MP Click's faith instantly because Ganji had a lot of monks out, and then he just just started like rolling over that. It's definitely one of the games to watch back, I think, in the tournament.
Yeah, so like we touched briefly on the tournament maps. I think it followed a similar system as Warlords, where there was 21 maps grouped in 7 different categories, which each category has 3 maps. And so teams, one team would pick the category, and then the other team would pick the map in that category. I think that's how the draft worked.
I think that's correct, yeah. So we had open, hybrid, different, whatever different means, closed, special.
I think different is
water and mixed.
Another hybrid kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of
if you look at them, 2 hybrid map pools.
It's kind of weird when you can have like hybrid and you have like Golden Lakes and a different. It's didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I like the maps. We already had one pitchfork opinion. I'm gonna have my pitchfork opinion, and I said I don't like. I'm gonna say it, guys. What map do you not think I don't like?
Arabia? Do you not like Four Seasons?
I do not like Four Seasons.
Really?
I just think
Okay,
it's. I think it's just silly.
I like. So maybe for like listeners, we explain briefly what Four Seasons is.
Oh yeah, so there's this map that was played in Double Cup, which is a multi-TC map, which was called Four Quarters, but it had a bit of a like snowbally situation where you'd start with 4 town centers. So what Four Seasons does is also take the 4 different areas idea, and then make it basically 4 1v1s almost you like where it would be blue against red and blue against yellow, like in
yep.
different quarters. I think I failed in explaining that, but
No, you're
but
right.
Yes.
it's
So like the map is divided in 4 quarters that initially
Yeah.
are split by a band of forest. So you cannot travel from one quarter to the other. You start with
Without chopping.
2TC and you start with ATC in so like you're in 2 of the 4 quarters and you are against both of your opponents. So like you have
Yeah.
1v1 against, if you're the blue players, you have 1v1 against the red player and 1v1 against the yellow player. And every player plays against every other player that's on the enemy team. Well, yeah, that's complicated to explain, but essentially
It's
there's like 4 1v1, one going into each different quarters, and every 1v1 has different players. It's never the same players in 2 different 1v1s.
Yep. That's the best way of explaining it. If you're watching the video, you'll see how the map is perfectly. If you're listening, we do apologise, but I think that was a pretty good explanation, to be honest.
So why do you not like the map?
Yeah, my main issue with the map is Panda touched on it. He said it's very snowbally, and I think it gets
that
very.
was the original one.
It gets.
But, yeah.
I think this one is still very snowbally, and it gets very snowbally very quick with lots of castles being all over the map. And
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not. I feel like once you've seen a couple of games, you've seen them all on 4 seasons, and that's just my take.
I get that, and I think the castle drop meta is probably like a fair shot. Like I think, so like obviously it's a 2TC start because you have to play both of your quote unquote 1v1, and so maps that have 2TC starts obviously tend to have a very high eco, and so you don't really see any feudal age aggression or anything. It's not really a thing on
It's
maps where
pointless.
you have
Yeah.
so much eco to start with. And so it's always gonna be fast castle and probably castle drops every time.
Most of the time it's castle
Yeah.
drop, yeah.
So you do see a lot of castle drops, but at the same time, it also feels like since the defender has like high eco, they're gonna be able to come up with something to like defend themselves and not die right away. And I think we have seen some very good games where when the game goes late, and then you have one team maybe winning one of the individual matches and one team losing one of the ones, and you also have to make decisions on which side to invest. So maybe if you're pushing on one side against one player, you're losing your other 1v1 against the other player, and so on and so forth. So I think it has a very interesting and very unique dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to see more of it, maybe with some. So like I think currently the quarters are Arabia-like, but maybe it can be something different, maybe like a lake or something like that. I don't know.
Ooh, now there's a thought to have different kind of styles of map in almost each quarter. I know like I know they have like different res, sorry, but to make them like more like even more different would be interesting.
The original map was like, or what it's based on, the 4 quarters one. It has like the top corner has just hunt, then the left corner has all the stone, the bottom corner has a lot of fish in it, and then the right corner has all the gold. And that's kind of like the snowballing part is basically everyone just focused on the left corner. You get the stone and you win the game because you just drop castles. What happened with this one, when we only saw it in the final, was there's like a 20% chance of a pond like spawning or generating in the map. And like both Hart and Jordan shared the quarter with the pond, and they both saw it at roughly the same time, and Jordan decided to dock. And I think if he didn't dock, that game could have turned out very differently, or if Hart at least contested for the water there, because it basically that was the food Jordan needed. I think he actually hit him slightly faster than Leary. I can't remember now. And Leary was trying to do like a fast imp type of push and kill Jordan in their 1v1 matchup. So that's in that sense, it's like I'm not gonna say it's a bit unfair because like you Hart saw it was there, but he decided to not take any of the fish or contest the pond at all. But for a map like this, because it's so hectic, I don't think you want there's being a 20% chance of a pond spawning. Then it becomes a bit too crazy, almost.
Yeah.
So, but maybe there could definitely be like a bit of change in the resource generations, like maybe a bit less stone, because we did see
a lot
of castles.
Yes,
it was one game. I think I saw like 5 castles in like surrounding one player, and then 5 in the next quarter and 5 next. I was like, it's maybe a bit too much. So,
and
but it's also 2 TCs, right?
Yeah,
so it's a bit.
And I think the design of the map is definitely interesting. We had a lot of different maps in the tournament, and because you have a lot of varied maps, we didn't really have. Sorry, we had a lot of different kind of like strategy in terms of like how the meta was developed, and it wasn't like consistent throughout maps. So like different, like all the maps had very different playstyles, which is great to see. I think it's
that was amazing.
It's not. I don't like seeing Scout Archer every game.
I totally agree with you.
I think there's a place for the Scout Archer meta in the game, and it's definitely and I think there is value in having those kind of games because it also highlights the skill of the player and highlight like how clean good execution can be played at the very top. But if it's every map that's played like that, it becomes boring, which I think the tournament did very well in that regard because obviously that would be like the optimal way of playing open maps, but all the other types of maps have different approaches and lots of viable civilizations.
And
unconventional strategies.
Yes, and when you have just like Scout Archer isn't so much. It's about execution, what you just said. It's not about. There's not as much strategy involved. So when you have these kind of different maps, so it's not really worked out what to do, you're gonna have unconventional strategies, which is also I think it was good for the players to try and work things out. A bit refreshing. It's also good for viewers
too. Come up with something on the spot, like in the final on Eldorado. They didn't like Jordan's did it like a bit of a mini sling to Viper, which the tournament allowed. Was we don't see that usually in team game tournaments where Jordan was just in field like, oh, I'm gonna sling you, and he slung Viper like 300 resources, and it just like made that early castle age just a bit stronger for Viper, and he really used it. He used it really well.
But
at least
it is sling with an asterisk, right? So what?
Yes.
So what is the difference between sling in a normal game and sling in the tournament?
So in the game, and this was already changed in DE, there's a 30% tax on what you sling to your ally. In this tournament, they put a 50% starting tax on it, and we didn't see it a lot. There used to be back in the pre-DE era. There was a lot of sling. Some people even called the last like big team game tournament Sling CL. That was the Escape Champions League. Which, funnily enough, it had a 40% sling tax. Actually, I went to go search on the handbook. So it's like not that far off, but like just that 10% difference made a big makes a difference. But also back then you couldn't pick positions on maps, so that also potentially played a role.
Well, you could in the final of the ECL.
Yeah, but I mean before, like all the way before that, it wasn't really. It was only explored basically in the LAN event, and even there we saw quite a GL using sling quite a bit with that 40%, and I think we could see more maybe with this 50%. Try it out more and see how it goes.
So here's my concern about that. We've seen a little bit of sling, in this tournament. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the team who slung win the game. So I'm thinking, there is a reason why sling has been banned in tournaments. Because over the course of the Age of Empires competitive history, every time there's sling in a tournament, no matter how high the tax is, it always ends up becoming the most viable solution. The first Battle of Africa started, the teams were not slinging initially because there was a heavy tax. And then in the final, every single game had sling. In the ECL, we had like the 40% tax.
Which
Saying like in
is
the early
close.
rounds, people were not slinging all that much. And then in the later rounds, they were slinging on almost every big team game. I think sling is, in essence, just impossible to balance unless you have if you put like the sling tax too high, it becomes completely useless and you don't see any of it. But if you are under that threshold, it becomes overpowered. There is no um, compromise that can be found. Like it's either useless or it's overpowered. Is what I fear sling is, and so yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on that. I think it can lead to interesting ideas on the fly, but also we want to see both players fighting, and we don't want the tournament to turn into a slinging fest.
What's
I can see that.
what's wrong with just slinging down? We've just been doing Frank for the last couple of years. I feel like there's a lot of people that are from the olden
I
days, and they want to see sling again. They want to see it back.
all to those who didn't watch it, like the GL, they do a podcast after tournaments every time, like where the players talk, and all four GL players that were part of that podcast, they all said we must sling. We want to see a bit more. It be more be seen more instead of just like you can't sling till imp or you can only sling age down. Which
But
may
then you get games where players base their strategy on sling. Example, you take Vikings or humans, and you just wall off, you go to Castle Age, and then you send all your rest to one guy. I think sling as a reaction, like in this game, they were not slinging from the start. They made this informed decision. Jordan said, "Hey, I'm gonna send you a few rests," and Viper used that rest to get like a very good advantage in the early castle each time.
Which is like a
Case
think,
of
it's a think on
sling.
your feet moment, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's something at least I think with this. We saw it in a 2v2, which might make it less easy to sling. I would like
Yeah,
to
like
at least
2v2 is like the least favorable setting for slinging, and yet we still see it perform well. So like imagine 3v3 or 4v4, where you
I would
can
like
really
to
protect
see
one
it
player
be
and
explored
develop their
there at
economy
least.
and sling.
Hmm.
I think it's like it's dangerous to play with sling because I think it can very easily turn into like an uninteresting strategy. Like if you're saying 3v3, you don't want to see one player on each team wall up, turtle up, and send res, and then only two players fighting with Imperial Age units while everyone else is like in early Castle Age.
I think slinging down is just fine. I don't see anything wrong with that balance. So when I mean slinging down, is like if you have a player in Castle Age, you're going to sling somebody in Feudal. If you're an imp, you can sling someone in Castle. Where if the other player's an imp, you can send it to them. I think to me, like, never see too many games or maps where it's going to be like ridiculous, or where if someone's kind of far behind, it can make sense to send res to that player to try and drag him back up. But you're also putting yourself back. I think like for me
Yeah,
that is what sling should be, is about trying to get people back into the game, not trying to propel someone else like closer to victory where they can like just snowball. For me that is what sling should be for.
yeah.
But that is not always how it's worked, as we kind of just alluded to. Is a lot of that propel factor is certainly a big reason why it's just not. It's just it's why it's been banned. It's probably
Yeah.
the
I think
fairest word.
was a bit of an overreaction to it. But I'm a sling enjoyer. I used back on Boobly. I used to be the slinging guy on my team, which so I get that also heavily influences my opinion because I was kind of like on my team at least the like worst player on now like playing a match, and then like I would be on a like I'll sling to help the team because I need to pull my weight differently
You need to find
in
value.
a sense.
You're a good
Yeah,
teammate.
exactly, and that's why at least I'm an enjoyer of it because it does open up new possibilities.
Mhm.
Like if you think back in ECL, where Suomi triple slung Max with gods, or if you go back 2 years before that, Chile B against Germany A in Nations Cup, they slung a player to do two castle conks, and you don't see that those type of like those units or usually at least in today's meta.
Yeah.
So I think there's a potential for it to make some units more usable, if that's the right
But I
term to
think
use,
the
instead of just the normal
maps,
archers and scouts all the
but I
time.
think the maps did that. You know, like with the cartographers map pool, you talked about Dowd going Huskarls on the wall with Taito. He didn't need this link to do that. I think the key is the variety in maps, and that is what breaks the Archer Scout meta, and that is
That
what
is
makes it
also,
what makes the tournament so
yeah, I agree
refreshing to
there.
see. Uh, like okay, there are some examples of Sting in the past that lead to very unique games, but you also don't want to see people turtle up as the default strat. Well, at least that's my opinion, and I think everyone can have different opinion on Sling. I think it's definitely like a polarizing thing, and that's why we had this like conversation. Maybe the viewers can let us know what they think about Sling
Slinging.
in the current team game meta and its place.
Yeah. Good idea. Let's quickly touch on the format of the tournament as well. It's the first team game tournament with 9 village start, which is kind of nice, just coming off of Warlords, also 9 village start, so not too much difference for the players there, kind of like transitioning from event to event.
There's a slight difference in the type of 9 will start that got used, but yeah, it's nice you're just sticking with what you were already busy with, which I think for continuity is not the right word in this case, but like for what you're used to, because you just grinded a 2-week tournament, now you're going to another 2-week tournament. There's no you don't have time to practice or get a bit more back into the rhythm of 3 villages start, because it's slightly different. You know, like you have to build 2 houses, suddenly you have to go find your sheep. So the whole first 30 seconds at least is something you have to get used to, which is so it's nice for them, like for to follow up.
One
And
Yeah,
one thing I will say about that, does it favor, or did it favor the, like the main event players for Warlords who are more practiced versus the other players that can't? It's more of an effort to go and play a 9 vil start because it's not in the game, so to speak. It's, you have to have the maps for it and you have to find people to practice with. You can't queue up for it. But for some reason we still have Empire Wars there, which isn't really doing anything at this moment.
yeah.
It's the 9 vil starts in a bit of it's a bit of a funny place at the moment. It kind of exists but does not exist at the same time. Schrodinger's 9 vils.
It's it's interesting because it's currently becoming the most popular setting for the competitive
yeah,
scene,
more,
and
I
you
checked earlier,
cannot
it's a
play it
lot
on the
of
ladder.
tournaments use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like honestly, to me, it's like as a viewer, it's a net positive. I think the game plays exactly like it would play if you were starting with 3 vils, and it's undeniably faster. So yeah, like to me, it makes no difference, except that the games are slightly shorter and we get to see action earlier. So is does that mean there's gonna be like a bigger disconnect between the competitive scene and the more casual like multiplayer scene. Does that mean the barrier of entry, like you said, gets higher as the players who make the final rounds of events get more practice on that game mode and others do not? I don't know.
But worth thinking about for sure.
Yeah. And it's
I
like
do
it's
not
also
know.
something that was completely invented by the community. So like
Yeah.
but so the dev team has been known to like listen to the community, takes inspiration from some works that the community has made. Typical example is a lot of the Krazini maps eventually made their way into the game as like standard maps. So we could see maybe like a 9 stars become like a new standard that is the game mode that is playable on the ladder. I think that would probably be a welcome. That would probably be welcomed by most pros. I don't know if the general audience would go into it, but yeah,
A suggestion I've heard quite a lot is for there to be like a tick option when you queue for normal RM is 9 will start, and then if your opponent also has a 9 will start, then you do a 9 will start. Otherwise, it's just a 3 will start, which could be a way to introduce it for everyone, and then it's an optional thing. And then you'd also have it in the lobby setting by default. You know, like you can select it, and at least for me, Age of Empires is like you have so many ways to play the game. Add another one. There will be people who like it, and there will be people who don't like it. But give people the option to do it. That's how I feel about it. And I personally like the 9 will start from watching it. I've not seen. It hasn't felt to me if it's suddenly it takes away much from the game. Like
yeah,
I remember when it started, like when I watched the first, it was Deporters League, I
yeah,
think. Yeah, and I felt like at least back then at a time it was you didn't see scouts a lot necessarily, and it allowed kind of an opportunity for scouts to be more. I felt like just because you have more villages at the start, so your eco is kind of going faster, and at least and uh, maybe one day I'll take and like compare stuff like doing like look at the different openings between 3 villages and 9 villages and compare. But at least I haven't felt like it's been a detriment to the game. And
yeah.
maybe like you have to change your build order a bit, but isn't that a positive instead of everyone just already doing, for example, Arabia team game, everyone's doing 18 pop archers, 18 pop scouts. It's the exact same build, 6 sheep, 2 wood, rest on food, and it's
And
rinse
like
and
if
repeat,
the
right?
game is played enough, the build orders will become more
Yeah,
widely
which will it?
available anyway, and so people
Yeah,
will be able to adapt to the new build orders.
uh,
So yeah, I think it's there to stay for sure. So it probably would be nice to get the option to play that because like I think for me at least, one of the like when I'm watching competitive Age of Empires, I feel inspired to play the game myself. I will not often like follow that up by actually going into onto the ladder and everything, but I feel hyped up by watching games and so I would want to play the same kind of stuff that the pros are playing, and sometimes there's like a bit of disconnect in there in what they're playing and what I could play on the ladder. I mean, in terms of maps and settings. But yeah, I think that should be all for the cartographers.
The cartographers, indeed. All right, time to move on to a year in review. And Tarsus, you're going to be our man leading this one. And there's a lot has happened in the year 2023. Cartographers was going to be our last
Yeah,
kind of major tournament.
yeah.
Let's
So
start us off.
I think we can maybe I'm gonna like maybe talk about like what happened during the year, and then we can branch and like stuff that marked us, important events of the year, and so on. So we've had 6 S tier tournaments. I think we're gonna focus mostly on the major events this year. 6 S tier T90 Titan League Season 2 being the first one in January, and then Warlords 2, the last one, finishing on the 19th of November of this year. This is like sort of a decrease in comparison to 2021, where we had 10 tournaments, and 2022 we had 9 S tier, so only 6 this year. Hera in the final of all of them, 5 1v1 tournaments and 1 team game tournament, the Nations Cup 2023, which was also coincidentally the only tournament which was entirely community funded and not funded by Microsoft. Hera, probably the most dominant player of the year, winning 4 out of 5 events in 1v1. He lost in the final of the 5th one, which was TDL2 back in February, and also made the final of Nations Cup, where he lost, where Canada lost the final against China. So yeah, that's basically the wrap up of the year. Yeah, but so like maybe starting with you, Paradox. What would you say marked you this year in the tournament scene? Was anything that stood out for you? I'm
Uh,
guessing you're kind of partial there.
yes, I mean it's very easy for me to say Nations Cup, but
Yeah.
honestly, the best tournament experience for me this year was NEC and going to Berlin and going to the meetup. For me, that was like the highlight of the year, like for sure. Especially because there was a lot of people there that I hadn't met, or maybe there was people there I did want to meet and got to meet, but there's also a lot of people there that I had no idea were even like going to be
Yeah.
there, or people that I wasn't expecting, like had no expectation to meet and did meet, which was just, it was really nice to then put like faces to names and kind of chat. And I was there like Thursday to Monday, and it was like it was like so quick and fleeting. It was like damn. And Monday I was like had serious blues for like the next days. It was like damn, that was too quick.
Yeah.
But it was such a good experience for like, but that was real life. I think we can get caught up in a lot of the online aspect of like the game
Yeah.
sometimes, you know?
It's different when you get to meet the people in real life after talking to them. It's like not the same as meeting in real life. So yeah, like NAC4 in March was the only LAN that we had this year, continuing with the now I think like probably established tradition of having at least 1 or 2 LANs a year. We had 2 in 2022, 1 in 2021, 1 in 2020, and 2 in 2019. And we have at least one that's already confirmed with NAC5 happening. Uh, what about you, Panda? Anything of note this year? Any comments on that?
I think we need more team game tournaments. That's at least I think from like if you include 8-tier tournaments as well, I think the team game tournaments were all top notch. Like Delicious World Cup,
Yeah.
it was it the maps were so different that it created different strategies. And then we had now which we just talked about, Cartographers and Nations Cup. Like it was as a 2v2, a 3v3, and a 4v4 tournament, and they were all great. And I think we need more of them. That's my takeaway from this year in tournaments.
The problem is
Yes.
finding the time. What I would say is, I think it's good we have like a big 2v2, a big 3v3, and we have the big 4v4. What we need to do is kind of prioritize them more. Like cartographers, it felt, I don't think rushed is the right word, but it felt like a little bit of an afterthought. Like we had some,
And a bit short.
yeah, a bit short. Like we had some calendar space. We're gonna squeeze this 2v2 event hosted by Viper's got a huge audience. We're gonna squeeze this in between Warlords and NEC qualifiers. Is gonna be like basically no pauses between them. I don't know, but it kind of comes back to why team game tournaments aren't as successful as well, unfortunately, with viewership, and that's one of the key metrics
Yeah.
from Microsoft and the kind of World's Edge perspective is the viewer numbers, and 1v1 viewership is really good. It's really good in comparison to these other events.
Yeah. So to recap, the out of the S and A tier events, we had 4 team game tournaments this year. So on S tier we had Nations Cup, which was 4v4, and then on A tier we had Rage Forest 4 in March and
Forgot
April,
about that.
which was also 4v4. We had Delicious World Cup from July 8th to 30th of this year, which was a 3v3 event, and then we had the Cartographers, which was a 2v2. So 2 4v4, 1 3v3, and 1 2v2. I think like a pretty healthy mix of our formats there. But yeah, like you said, I think the scene has kind of shifted into something that is heavily dominated by 1v1 events. That's where the big prize pools are, that's where the big viewership is. And so it's natural that pro players want to do well in those events, and that might be at the detriment of team game tournaments, because obviously we only have 24 hours in a day, and if you have to sacrifice playing team games, even if you like it, just to be better prepared for the next 1v1 events, then yeah, it's kind of understandable that you do it. So yeah, I don't know what would be the best solution. It's also harder to fit, I think, probably like a big team game tournament into tight timelines. You know, like Warlords had those very those set days where well the series would happen. It's harder to do that for team game events. It worked for cartographers, but that was 2v2. 4v4, you
Even
have
there,
a lot more
it
players,
almost
obviously.
ran into a situation where Viper and Jordan
Yeah.
could have ran into an admin loss because Jordan wasn't available to play on
Mm-hmm.
a certain day.
They had to play 2 sets in the
And
one
then,
day, right, with a very early start. Or not. Do you know
yeah,
what? Early for most people, not early for Jordan.
not early for
It
Jordan,
was
yes.
early for Viper. It was early for
Yeah.
Viper.
It was, but still, for him to be able to, for both of them to be able to perform after such long days was really, really impressive to see. And
Yeah.
and also I think it gives a perspective. Like it only happens to big favorites, right? That they have, or to players at least with a big following. Now they suddenly have to play at a time that doesn't suit them, and it makes you think of players like Slam, who's on the West Coast in Canada, right? And like a lot of time, like he has to wake up at 3 a.m. or to
Yeah.
check in, or 4 a.m. And then the Asian guys, they have to stay up
Till like
late.
3 or 4 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it in a small way it puts a bit of a light on this, in like,
Yeah.
oh, like this happens not like to other people as well, right? And but
Yeah.
that's a
It's
completely
very
different
tricky.
discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could talk a lot about that. In fairness, and
Yeah.
the kind of like
Yeah.
EU centric side of it all, and it's definitely more unfair for some from certain people, which it's a hard thing to
Yeah. I
work
think it's
around,
like,
and we're not a proper developed esport yet, where we
yeah.
can facilitate like regionals or like continental like areas. You know, it's
Yeah.
all it's a H2 is a worldwide game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. And but I think like this argument of like time zones and everything, I think it probably boils down to, like you said, audience is the main driving factor behind Microsoft giving money. And also our game is kind of caster centric, in the sense that the biggest tournament hosts are also the main casters. And those are US East Coast based and Europe based. And the main part of the audience is also based on those time zones. So that's why generally it's probably like the time zone that has it the best for players. But obviously, yeah, it should remember to be fair to every player on the scene, and not forget that we have players from the US West Coast, we have players from China and Vietnam that sometimes have to play very late hours or very early hours in the case of US West. So yeah,
And it's
tricky.
kind of a reminder how far away we are from actually like being a true esport where like League has like like they have the NA region, they have like the Asian they have like you know what I mean, like, and they have massive prize pools for each of them. We're not really close to that. I mean, League is also having some downturn in prize pools as well, but kind of was it the same thing for Age this year? Less prize pool, but largely because of no Red Bull. If I'm right.
Yeah, we can talk
No,
about that actually, because the prize pools generally for this year have been slightly smaller than the years before, and it is largely due to the absence of Red Bull, I think. So, 2022, I think, was the most successful tournament, but the most successful year in the history of the game financially. But it was mostly driven by two events. We had Red Bull Legacy at $200,000 combined prize pool, and then we had the Grand Melee at $100,000. Uh, Combined, I think those two are alone higher than the sum of the prize money for the S tier of 2023.
yes.
Where the
Oh,
main
no, no,
event was
just below it, but
just below it.
close.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they are close. And then there was Boa at $30,000, Warlords 1 at 30,000, etc., and a few others. That being said, it's still like I think there was still pretty healthy price pools this year as well. I think so. NAC4 85,000, King of the Deserts 80,000, Warlords 2 50,000. But yeah, it seems like there is less events and maybe the price pools stay the same in general or like comparable, but like less events and obviously like a big question mark on Red Bull. The last event was October 2022. They haven't done an event in 23, and we don't know if there's gonna be an event in 24.
No, I mean,
Another.
sorry, I just want to quickly interject. We also had a lot of community funding this year. So NEC4, it was 85,000, but only 50 of that came from
Yeah.
Microsoft. So it's 35,000
Oh wow, yeah.
of community donations. That's huge. Nations Cup was close to 20k. I know Warlords two qualifiers got, I think it was like 5 or 6 thousand from one of Mem's viewers. And then you add up
It
like
was,
all the other community donations like from other events. There's like if you go to like the B tier on Wikipedia, there's so many of them, and most of them are all community donations. You're talking easy 100k. Potentially, I was estimating the other day, probably like 110 to 120k of like community donations. That's a lot of money.
that's yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think there's something quite positive and quite healthy in that as well, in the sense that so having community funded events is not something new in the scene, and it actually used to be the way the scene run back in the day, where you had one or two really rich guys who really loved the game and they would invest a lot of money into a few select events. So we had the Tyrant sponsor, obviously, probably the most famous one, sponsored events upwards of $100,000 in donations and all that. We had the SY sponsor. We had Pinstack in the early days of COVID, giving lots of money to MEMP for events and so on. And then even if we go back
Had
in
Matt as
the
well.
mid 2000s, yeah, Matt
We
Salsa,
had Matt Salsa
like
too,
even
yeah.
back in the mid 2000s, I think there was this Kazakh guy called Arbalet who also used to sponsor a lot of events. And it doesn't seem like today we have
A rich dude.
one big donator like
No,
that,
I don't
but
think we
it's
do
more
have a
like a
big rich dude.
collective effort, and so it feels more sustainable in the long term, because if someone lost interest and goes away, well, it's only like a small part of the general community pool. That's what I mean, with this.
Yeah, it feels much more healthy. For sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, is it going to be completely sustainable, though? Like, I think a lot of these. So the donate. This might be like tinfoil hat, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of like donators, like in esports, a lot of them are like crypto like kind of dudes and have they end up making like a lot of money and end up donating like a lot of it to like their favorite games and whatnot. I think that's genuinely a thing. I might be like conspiracy theory right now, but crypto's also on like a downturn as well, so it might be like a knock-on effect that there won't be as many. Because I know like Becosland, for example, was a guy that used to donate a load of money, a crypto guy. He used to help out with mem events quite a bit, and he's donated to other events. But I don't think he's donated as much recently. And it could be that's complete speculation, but I'm sure he's not. I do
Yeah.
follow him on Twitter. I've not seen him as active as much.
Well, outside of that, I think there is inspiration that comes from big events. So like you see those big events, and like I was mentioning earlier, it might hype you up to play more of the game, but it also inspires other people to host their own events, thinking about, oh yeah, like this settings looks cool, but I think it can do better. Let me host my own
For sure.
regional or like lower level tournaments. And so I think if suddenly those prize pools decrease from Microsoft, then maybe instead of hosting 2 events this year, King of the Desert 5 and Warlords 2, MEMP only hosts one of those. And then suddenly, probably that also leads to less lower tier events, which are very important tournaments to keep the scene going. So, yeah,
Community events.
Microsoft stays
They're the
in
best.
it to keep inspiring the community as well.
Which I kind of had some conversations with people at Microsoft. Like why? I think it's just it's a kind of worms from what I've been told, but it's like it should be something that's delegated to someone at Microsoft. There should be like ongoing community events like all year round if it's coming from like whatever events are sponsored. There should be like a low elo version. All because it's just a great
Yeah.
way of engaging the community. But it's just it's the same. It is the same thing with Microsoft in terms of like the money. We'll give you the money, but it's the streamers will leave you to guys to do that. And it's the same thing for community events as well. It's like we're not really gonna touch it. It's probably a little bit if they can, and they just red tape here, there, and everywhere. But I'm glad we have a lot of people that are willing to do it. Put it that way.
It would be not like I think everyone probably has their own ideal way tournaments should run. I know I have mine, and I have a whole. But every now and then I work on an Excel with my ideas and that. But I know it's very unlikely will like that like something like that would ever be implemented, right? And it'd be nice to see. I like a bit more. How do you call it? I would say like a bit less streamer focused for tournaments, which I know is
a bit more
quite
hands on.
hard.
I just love Microsoft to be a little bit more hands on.
Yeah.
I think that's the prevalent thing, right? Like, it's very confusing as an outsider. What is Microsoft involvement, and how do I get in touch with Microsoft? Are they asking anything about settings, or are they putting any requirements? You know, it feels like there's this black box thing that is like, okay, you get Microsoft funding, but how does it work? How do I pitch my ideas? Yeah, it feels like they're very hands off.
Or even if you're what do you call it, like a small tournament host, you want to expand, but how to get your foot in the door. It's not that easy to know, right?
No, you need to know the right people, and it does give off slight boys' club vibes. And that's not saying like it's like male dominant. That's like a phrase of saying like It's a bit closed door. You need to know the right people how to get in, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. To be honest, it's certainly something that could be improved upon. And as far as I'm aware, that is being worked on a little bit. Ash does an amazing job as community manager. I have a lot of time for Ash. Whenever I message her with a problem, she's usually pretty quick. There's way more work than she's needed to. I think she's community manager and the tourney coordinator now, so it's like 2 jobs in one when it was previously a job for 2 people. So there's also a lot of stuff that we don't know that's going on in the background. You don't know how much red tape there is, how difficult it is to do things, So it's very easy. I know I have to just criticize them a little bit. It's very easy to judge, but don't always have the full context of the situation either. But doesn't mean you're immune to any sort of criticism in that same vein.
Yeah.
To go back to the star, he talked about like the Red Bull star. Another star is the Grand Melee, or at least the Order of the Sheep. They kind of appeared out of nowhere last year, right? And they even had after NAC4 this year, they had their own teaser video, kind of, and then they had a show match.
Yeah, a little bit of a weird one.
And we haven't heard about them in the last 6 months, or even more.
Yeah.
6 to 8 months. And I was expecting there to be more tournaments from them, and that's also a bit, in a way, a big a loss of, especially because it was kind of a foot into DreamHack with them, which I'm not like, we don't have here in South Africa, we don't have a DreamHack event, but my understanding is that it's kind of a big thing across the world, these DreamHack events, and so, and like so at least am I like, for the esports scene, that's something that you'd like to be part of, at least. So
I think there was lots of things about this event that were the most esport ready ever, perhaps. So I'm looking at the page. They had proper sponsors: Samsung, Reboot, Western Digital. They had artists, so hosts from StarCraft 2 hosting the event, and it was obviously at DreamHack. So it was very much like a word, but yeah, like they teased something after the event finished, and nothing since. We still don't know who were the people behind the Order of the Sheep.
Geo.
I think most people know who it was pretty obvious, but
okay, I have no idea who that is. So
it was Gamer Legion. You could all the stuff for Gamer Legion people for it. So, and I assume they created like the Order of the Sheep to kind of distance himself a bit from the hosting of it, because it's like we saying, oh yeah, GL's just getting money because they have the best players, right? So, and that, but I personally, I like that kind of intrigue they gave off with their some of their promotions and stuff.
No,
I
pure cringe for me. Pure cringe.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm a sucker for those type of things. Or at least for me, I want to see where they go with the lore kind of.
Yeah. It wasn't. It was a bit cheesy and cringy for my liking.
I'm on Paradox side on this.
I also think, because this is something I read from, was comments from people that were actually there. It was it came off better than it came off for us sitting at home.
Mm-hmm.
At the end,
it looked like kind of dead,
Yeah.
No, but it's also, I know it was a Dave complaint, whenever they showed the camera, they'd be showing the empty chairs and not where everyone's sitting.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how many people there were, but it was also very rushed. It would be nice if we knew, like going into next year, we know DreamHack Hanover will have an Age of Empires event,
Imagine.
and then I'm sure it will be full.
Imagine having a calendar where you
close
have
to it.
all the events on it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. So we didn't have
Yeah.
a follow-up of the TGM. We also didn't have any Red Bull this year.
Yeah.
Are they going to be back next year? I think the big question and how much that's going to affect potential next year in review, because it seems to be the Red Bull are scaling back in a lot of things recently in terms of like esports, and typically when they're involved in sport, it's more like traditional sport. It's more of like the extreme sports side. They have some more like conventional athletes and whatnot. They may have like some sponsorships, but it's generally more extreme things. They do have the two football teams as well, but we won't really get into that.
It's interesting how they got into Age. I think they did some city skylines thing as well at some point. Honest, I don't really know like what is the extent of their involvement into esports. For me, Red Bull is more like a climbing and F1 sponsor. So
They have their hands in a lot of baskets. A lot of baskets.
Almost a bit like just throwing and see what sticks.
There'll be a large part of that, and it'll just be like marketing money. Here, here's some budget. Go and be a bit more inventive of how you want to spend it, and that's largely what it just is, right? The sponsorship is just marketing money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a way for them just to infiltrate different markets, and esports is a big market, but it seems to be like the quote unquote bubble is bursting in the last number of months or whatnot. So will we see them back? I don't know.
yeah. So I'm looking at the Red Bull website, and it looks like they have a foot in the League of Legends and Valorant scenes at least, which makes sense. Those are like probably
Major
two of the
games.
main esports at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in the US. Yeah, I don't know. It would be good. I think now we have T90 and Viper back on Twitch
Twitch.
could play a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they see the game to be desirable in the next number of months. I'm sure like most of these things are pretty organized and decent time, but maybe over even the next month, if they see really good results from NEC from the streams from the players as well, maybe like that would be enough to like tip over the edge and be like, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
But
maybe they go for a different format this time.
True.
Or a different type of tournament concept. So, because it's been a while since the last Red Bull Warlords, and it was already called Legacy, the previous one. So
I know.
Yeah.
I think the cycle is done on the Empire Wars. You're probably moving it on.
Yeah.
And maybe we're circling back to the Nineville start thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Could
Red Bull people
a CBA tournament.
A CBA
No,
tournament.
please.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, just kidding. Just kidding.
Red Bull people are still active on the Discord, so maybe
Yes.
they're still keeping an eye on the scene, seeing how it goes, and maybe there will be something in the coming years. Hopefully, it would be really cool to see them back in, because that's like another big name, and the Red Bull World Series I think was pretty amazing. So
It's also a really good performer for them, I think, viewership wise.
Yes, very very good.
So, like, they I think like I get why they were like they scaled back in everything, and Age was kind of a casualty of that. But
yeah,
it was still a really good performer for them, and maybe they revisit us in the future.
Let's leave it there. Let's move it on. So we got the Age of Empires 2 Community Awards for 2023. I have put something together in the last couple of days. It was something that used to be ran by Lidacor. It's kind of moved on to pastures now. He's now working for EGC TV in Age of Empires 4. Mainly he's casting over there. I think he does quite a lot of work for them. But previously it was like for, I think it was relatively small. It was like for best player, best tournament, mostly tournament focused. And then I read the old thread from 2021, and there were some comments, and maybe have like some content creation awards, and they came up with some other missed ones as well. So added some cast of the year, most improved caster, up and coming streamer, a creative award, kind of just trying to shine some light on all the other. Well, even if you're a streamer and you're really inventive with how you with what your content is, YouTube editors. We have some musicians that even make age-themed music, podcasters, and then we have some Misc Themes Biggest Drama, Community Contributor of the Year, Map Scripter, and Wild Predictions for 2024. And I'll be reading, we can read out the Wild Predictions for 2024 on the January episode, and I am looking forward to the predictions in that one, because I've had a look through them already, guys, and there's some corkers in there. There is some good ones. So the main details on that is on the AoE Zone page. I get you full breakdown. Then on the page for AoE Zone, there is a link to the Google form where you can fill it out. But both of them will be in the description below. I did have a Reddit post. So we had the Reddit drama a couple of months ago. My Reddit post got took down. Wasn't completely sure why. And then I mailed the mod team.
They were trying to win the award by deleting, on the best drama by deleting your post.
So they took it off, and then I asked why it got taken down. It took down, sorry. And it says, you can't promote other websites in the main body. I'm like, what? So number one, it's not a rule. Number two, how paranoid do you need to be to think that AoE Zone in its current form is a competitor to Reddit? That's some big paranoia going on right there, because AoE Zone is in shambles. If you go on now, you're maybe seeing like 5 users online. It used to be like 50, you would see quite like hundreds of like guests as well, or people are not logged in. You still see quite a lot of guests, but the actual members that are signed in is it's tiny now. You'll see like 5 to 10 if you like log in at a certain time of the day.
10 would be a really good day. A good day for them. I think. I actually still open it a couple times every day to see if there's something, but it's just like faded away. But I do find it a bit funny, which I know is it on the main body, but like there's literally a link to AoE Zone on the sidebar
for more details.
So yeah, like
it's not like
you don't even promote.
I'm not saying go to AoE Zone, guys. I'm saying there's more details over there, because Reddit's not the best place to, like, if you're putting an image on, you then put like the text in the description. It's not the best thing to have different forms of communication in the one thing. It's usually better if you have just an image, because you have to go on the image to see the description of everything, or just text, so you know it's a text post. So it's a little bit tricky managing that, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't put Reddit drama on the biggest drama shortlist, and maybe I should have, because after the whole Reddit fiasco of the old mod coming back and kicking out the old mod team in the graph round thing, he said it was going to be a lot more transparent and consistent.
Sure.
Surprise, surprise.
He's definitely consistent. Consistently bad.
Yeah.
So we'll go over the full results in January. I'll have the full numbers. It's going to be open to the 19th of December. I will prepare some like images and announcement things, which I'll be posting onto my Twitter after I kind of like parse and sift through all the results. But there's a lot of things to vote on there. Probably take like 10 to 15 minutes. 5 minutes if you really want to zoom through it. And we have, let me just do a live check. 633 responses so far, so really good response. I'm kind of thinking of only being open for 2 days, we're probably going to push 1,000 now, which would be great. And, yep, go vote. and we can discuss the results at on the next episode. But we're going to move on to the next section, which is going to be our quiz, which we are going to fit in here. And it's going to be linked to the community awards, but it's going to be a little bit of a twist because I'm not going to be giving out any answers today, unfortunately. But we're just going to be thinking about the community awards, and I've got some prepared pies of the answers already. So let's have a look at our first one here. I'm going to say the one that's got, it should be in order already, so the one that's got mostly blue. And I wonder, there is another one, I wonder if you can pick up. No, do you know what, that doesn't matter, but mostly blue, 68.4%, 14.5 is second place, and 9% for third. Any first thoughts on what, this is a landslide victory, right? So what award are we thinking could be this one here?
So, just to clarify, and maybe you can, it's probably in the post or in the vote, which I totally did, but I don't remember. When you're voting for a category where there is a few possible options, you always have the option to select other and add anything you want, right?
Yes, for all of them, just about, yeah.
Because like for this one, I'm concerned about like well, maybe not for this one in particular, but like we see there's like a few other options that have like very marginal number of votes, and I would expect that out of like 600 voters, there would probably be like a few trolls and all that, like. So like if Doubt isn't nominated for Player of the Year, there will always people who will say Doubt is the Player of the Year and so on.
I'd be one of
So
those.
I guess for this one is that 68.4% of voters think that Hera is the Player of the Year. 14.5% think that Viper is the Player of the Year. 9% think Taro is the Player of the Year.
Okay.
And then the
Okay.
rest is.
I kind of have to go with the same answer, I think.
Okay, here's a spanner then. Let's move on to our next one. We also have another one with 68.3%.
Yeah.
And then we got 10% for the second, and then 7.7 for the third. So it's another landslide. But who knows what it could potentially be?
I have my theories for this one, and we have an idea on this one.
I kind of, for something this big, this like has to be. I don't know. Oops, sorry, I bumped the spoon. For me at least, when I saw this, I was thinking for these two, kind of was like the first thing came to mind. Oh, it's be the best player of the year, and then the most improved player of the year for the second one. At least that's what's going in my mind. I'm not. I think potentially Tarsus might agree with me.
That's
well.
I hadn't thought about this. I didn't remember, but I think it's so. My thinking when I see this one is that there's actually a lot more options for the other. So like a lot of players, all of voters thought that the options that were presented were not maybe completely representative, and so there was a lot of people suggesting other ideas. So, and I think for a most improved player of the year, it would make sense that people would think that. So I was actually thinking this was the best non-S tier event of the year because of the number of like smaller choices that there were. But I think Panda, you're correct.
And what would be our guess for most improved player of the year, gents?
I think it's freaking Andy because of recency bias. Well, it could be Barles if we really think about recency bias, but I think freaking Andy marked the minds more because of TTL and his results in there, and also like making Warlords main event and all that. Barles' improvement is like just over the past month, and he was also more established than freaking Andy.
He already attended Red Bull, right? So
Yeah, he
you
was
could
already
argue he
there.
is probably already in the top 16, and
Yeah,
Andy
I would
is
say he's
broke.
probably the 10.2% if this is indeed the category, and maybe Margugu is like the 7.7% in there.
Okay,
But yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I can see that. Can see that.
Well, we'll find out. Let's move it on. So we'll have the full results in January, but you can see them on the Twitter, the AOE Zone post before. But we probably won't have. I probably won't release a full data. That will be a podcast exclusive. Let's just go on to tournament shoutouts because I'm conscious of the time. Rising up here. Tarsus. So
Yeah,
we just have the
maybe we
three.
can.
Yeah, we had the 9 tournaments. We had 3 each the last time, but that kind of covered like a huge amount of what's going on in the scene. And in that particular moment, we did have a lot of tournaments. So we're just going to cover 3 today.
Yeah. Do you want me to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. I think it's probably less awkward if you do GB Heaven Cup too.
Yeah. Okay. So first tournament shoutouts that we had in mind is the GB Hidden Cup 2. So the idea was a hidden cup within the British community, and that was hosted by Big Walt and Paradox, and admin by the Gauss, and I think someone else as well. I don't remember.
A secret
Neelis?
admin.
Yeah,
A secret
the
admin.
secret admin. And eventually, it was won by Hallis, who's probably the best British player at the moment against Dorvoy in the final, who was the previous winner of this of the GB Hidden Cup. And yeah, it was a ton of fun. The tournament had 16 players, all using British pop culture references as their uh, identities. And yeah, it's so what's and it's an interesting event, this Hidden Cup, because I feel like it's such a great concept that it has been declined lots of communities over the years in the scene. Like I've seen the Vietnamese do one, which was I think won by Backed against Bad Boy. There has been like a Finnish community event where they took the Moomins, who are like Finnish characters, cartoon characters, as their identities. There was an Italian Hidden Cup, so many uh, other events. I think maybe the Polish one, the Polish did one as well, something like that.
I've seen a
So yeah,
Spanish one and a Norwegian
great.
one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically every community has their hidden cup. So like really great format, a great event. Yeah, congrats to Hellis for winning. Really good job by Walt, Paradox, the Ghost, and everyone involved. Yeah, that was a ton of fun.
And I think that's the key word there.
Uh,
It's a lot of fun, and it's very engaging for the community as well, because everyone loves like the Hidden Cup format, but the whole like guessing
I
game
think
is
it's
great for
very
people.
engaging,
Yes.
and you pay more attention to things that you would normally gloss over because you're trying to guess who the players are.
Yeah,
I
it's
think that's
the
really a cool aspect of Hidden Cup.
the whole experience as a viewer has been gamified, which is just so good for keeping people like tuned in.
Mm.
And you cheer for your character, right?
Or
Yeah,
or
okay.
you cheer against the
Yeah.
character, which is something I try and lean heavily into with the GB one. It's good to have some villains there for people to cheer against
Some
and
villains,
play
yeah.
into it. Yeah, every good story has to have a villain,
For sure.
if not multiple.
All right, so I think that's it for GB Hidden Cup. Next one we had was the Clash of Titans 10th year anniversary. So for listeners who are probably new to the Age of Empires scene, there was an event 10 years ago in 2013 called Clash of the Titans, where after some qualifiers pitched 6 players against one another in a round robin group, where they would face every other player in a play all 5 series. And so this tournament was notable because it was one of the first major tournaments that Viper won, and he finished first ahead of Jordan. But what was interesting is that Jordan actually won against the Viper in their set. He won 3-2, and he won every series he played, finishing 5-0. And Viper finished 4-1, losing to Jordan and beating everyone else. But since the main criteria for victory was the number of games you had won, Viper won on that, even though he had not beaten Jordan. So there's a new version that is being hosted right now. There was some sort of promotional event with the remaining players who are still active. 10 years later, Viper, Jordan, Dogao, Doubt, I think semi-name, and maybe Mr. Yo was replacing Loisa or something like that. Yeah, but the main event has started now. There's some pretty big names signing up. I think Dogao and semi-name at least are playing.
NBL,
So they
Classic
no,
Pro.
but I mean, so yeah, Dogao and semi-name were in the promotional
Oh, yes.
events, and then there's like a few other top signups. So ACCM, Capoch, MBL, like you said, Winchester, Freaking Andy, Cito, Classic Pro. So yeah, like a pretty good competition there. So yeah, I think it is organized by Nova and T West, and also Hui Koyoto. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay, that is... Tarsus, that is some great pronunciation there.
yeah, I'm a pro. So yeah, like you can check details on this tournament on Wikipedia if you're interested in following, and also I think T West and Nova and probably Onlu will cast out of the series of this event. Really big my pool with this one.
Huge.
Anything to add?
No, and very funky settings for sure. This doesn't resemble a tournament that you would see in 2023, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it
It's
kind of
very
shows how much things have
different.
changed in the last 10 years. And they've changed a lot, guys. A lot.
Yeah.
My god.
Yeah, and talking about unique settings and things that are different. This brings us to our third tournament shoutout of the podcast today. We have a Ring of Fire 5, which is a 1v1v1 event hosted by Grathrong. So 1v1v1, essentially a free-for-all with 3 players on every map, and usually free-for-all events, they will have a format that is okay. Like if you win the game, you win a prize or something. But there's not like a real tournament format with this. And this is where Ring of Fire is different, because every game, every player who wins this game, this like 1v1v1 game, goes on to face 2 other players who also won the 1v1v1, and so on until there is only 1 player left at the end. This is, I think, played on regicide mode, and you cannot garrison your king.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to always pay attention to where your king is and all that. The tournament has started. I think the round of 81 is underway and also in progress. And I think it is meant to last up to December 17th. So yeah, if you're interested in watching that, and it's probably lots of good fun, you can tune in Grathrong's Twitch channel. And I don't know if like any other people are covering the event, but he will probably cast everything, and then I guess some players might be able to cast their point of view as well. So yeah, very unique settings for this one.
I think it also allows a bit for an underdog to win.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially like I'm a bit of the weaker player, so I like try and play both sides on the better players in the game, and then I end up backstabbing both of them, kind of thing. Well, after they drain resources, right? Like, so it does give an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And
so I realized
there's
that
been like 1,500 players that won it
semifinals
before. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I realized the semifinal and finals play as best of 7, so it can go really long. Because those games tend to last a lot longer than a regular 1v1.
Oh, free-for-all games, especially if it's if it's just a 1v1v1. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Because there's like way less opportunity to snipe like players like in a traditional like 8-player free-for-all. But like, if
Yeah.
it's in a 3-player one, it's a grind. But it's the same. It can kind of get like that in like a free like in an 8-player. Once you get down to like 3-4 players, it can get very campy and cagey. But it's good that the kings can't be garrisons. There's always going to be potential that 20, well, not even 10 CA run into your base, or
Yeah.
the likely play is going to be walling in your king to the corner. Like, what are you going to do if like 10 siege rams and 10 CA come? Like, you might have quite a lot of
Probably
issues like
die.
stopping it. Like, so. I'll try and watch some games and see what's going on. Probably towards the later stage. I played my round of 81 yesterday in it and didn't go well. I was dead within 25 minutes. It was a best of one, so it was a short-lived affair for me, unfortunately. Sad business.
Yeah. But hey, it is how it is.
It is how it is. I'm used to losing. Anyway, life goes on. Let's touch on upcoming balance changes real quickly before moving on to NEC. We are kind of expecting new balance to be in place or for the main event. So, Panda, do you want to walk us through the upcoming balance changes that they currently have in the pup, with the asterisk that these are TBC? It might still change before the actual, the new patch does come out. Because we've seen it with Chinese before. They had changes in the pup. Wasn't actually going to be didn't actually end up in the actual patch or balance change.
That was the first and the last time they did it. That happened.
But we also this time we have another Chinese change, and
Yes.
let's see if it makes it to the balance patch. Well, let's walk us through what the changes are going to be.
Okay, I know I wrote down it in a specific order, but I'll just start with something I guess everyone wants to hear. They fixed Monaspas, supposedly,
Thank God.
pup, so they don't do extra damage to certain units and buildings. So that's good. Then there's a Ratha buff, which is a bit. Didn't think they haven't. You don't see them a lot, and I didn't think they'd get a bit of love. But the big one there of the two changes they'll get is they'll do 20% trample damage while in melee mode. So it might actually be
viable.
Finally, like maybe, yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting. I'll be like keeping an eye out on that. It probably won't do a lot to Bengalis, but it will be like if you get them, okay, they might. I have another unit option because they do not have knights, remember? So they have something to offset that, and especially in 1v1s at least. Then we have a Hussite wagon. It's change. It's kind of a. It's not a. It's a big-ish change because they just like a patch or two ago they had like a whole rework, and now they're getting another change very soon after that. We saw some very interesting strategies where people would do like very very fast castle ages and then just play full Hussite wagons, and then they've been doing really well on the ladder. So be interesting to see how this would change unit. Might make them a bit weaker, especially against villagers, because villagers also at one stage got a extra bonus damage against them. So losing some HP there and some attack might make the unit a bit less viable. Guess also potentially the devs didn't want them to play out like that. Then I'm quickly gonna touch on a couple of small changes. There's a Chinese change coming where the line of sight that you get from the town center is increased to +7 in total, and the starting population space is now +15. Holy, that's a lot. For some reason I thought it was only like +5. So, which means you will not need to build a house very early. Like, it'll be what? Only after you've built your lumber camp, which would really make it that early Dark Age smooth. I think, because even I sometimes like I'm not the world's best. I have the best Chinese build order, but like it's not that bad, and I sometimes even get myself in a like
I hate random Chinese.
bit of a pickle.
I
and it's like
random Chinese.
And this could be also, I don't know, Paradox, you're more the Nomad player, but it could be used a bit more viable, make them a bit more viable there, because you technically save 25 wood, right? Because you don't have to build a house now.
Yeah, I think it will make them slightly
get a dock up
better.
faster potentially on Nomad.
Well, you can put the dock up, right? Because you get the pop space anyway from the TC, so it's absolutely fine. But you're not going to be on wood super early anyway, because you need to you need to land on food so you can get the food running onto the TC. So you're always going to be late going on to wood. I don't know if it makes too much difference.
I think it will be at least on the.
I think
on the lower level it would be nice. It's a nice change.
That's a key detail there. I think it's a change for the lower level. I'm interested to see how much of a difference it's going to make for the pro level though. It does feel like Chinese have kind of fallen back a little bit.
Yeah, they actually dropped. If you look at the win rate stats, to like bottom. So that's especially after that the nerf they got to the technology discounts they had. Yeah, it took a big hit, but I don't know. Maybe it could just be people like, oh, they don't. I lose out on 5 food now. Now the server sucks. When I research double attacks or something, and it could just be a subjective thing. But Chinese is what do you call it? Kind of like a high skill ceiling civ.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine for having a couple civs like that. Then I went too long on this. It was supposed to be a quick one, but then we have another small one. Hindustani, the villager discount is getting buffed again after it got nerfed right before NAC, actually, the first one for this year, where before they had a 10% discount in Dark Age, and then got nerfed to 5%, and then they just dropped, and they kind of like just fell away in 1v1s, and they're getting buffed now with their villager discounts being 8% in Dark Age, 13 in Feudal, 18 in Castle Age, and 23% in Imperial. So it's a slight buff. Might make them a bit more, or not, a bit more, or less lackluster, I would guess, because they went from being a top civ after release, kinda. If you looked at win rates to just falling off along the way as changes were made. Then the other small change that I think is to mention is Poles getting a slight discount on the full work, 25 wood less. So it's not big, but it's like, but it also is, for me, sometimes I felt like with it, oh, I don't have the wood I don't have the wood in my like my collector already to make use of it. Of that, like, oh, I get a house and a mill at the same time. So, and then I still had to build the house anyway. When now I think potentially you can go just build the full work and then you get the house as an extra, so it's a slight buff. I don't think it will be a big, like, oh, make a big difference. Then there's the big thing of this patch is the monk changes.
Boy, oh boy. We know that's a hot topic.
Yes, they are changing the monk conversion chance from 25% to 40%. But they are increasing the minimum, I'm going to say, monk seconds to 5 by 1. So the shortest conversion time will now be 5 monk seconds, and the longest would be 9 monk seconds. So it's a bit of a buff against them and a bit of a buff against them. And then there's some other other changes to make it kind of for like the Teutonic bonus to be like the same. With the new change, and then another one is they're adding a new technology called devotion, which basically increases the minimum and the maximum conversion time by 1.
In Castle Age, and it's also
Yes,
before
in Castle
Faith.
Age, that's big.
I see.
It's also
Prelude to
pretty
Faith.
cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I have to, so it's like I had a, what do you call it? I made myself a graph with. Anyway, it's like, I think, and almost like I don't know. I don't have words for this. I feel like the unique stuff, like for example, the Bengalis resistance and the Teuton team bonus, is kind of getting a bit nerfed because of it. Personal opinion, right? Scouts and Eagles stay the same pretty much, and then where it comes to Faith, the only thing is like it's a big buff, I think, because it increases the minimum to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If I did the math right, and where now if you research Faith, it just increases it to 6 seconds for the fastest. So Faith will be, once you get Faith, at least it will have a really big impact with conversions. But I also don't think that's when conversions are necessarily a problem in the game.
Just to quickly piggyback on what you say about Bengalis and Teutons, I think it makes sense that the effect is less noticeable. So like if, for example, if devotion increases the minimal amount of time it takes for a conversion by 1 second, imagine like a unit gets converted in 5 seconds, a 1% increase is like 20%. But if you're Teutons and it's 10 seconds, it's only 10% increase from 10 to 11. So it will feel that it has a lesser effect on civs that already have a resistance.
Yeah,
that was all I was gonna say.
It's quite a long thing, because I've tried hard to understand this, and I've read on at least 3 different places about how monk conversions work, and I've watched the T-West video multiple times and trying to puzzle everything together, and I think I can go on a 30-minute ramble about it, so I'll spare people of it for now, because there's some things that don't make sense and values that people got that also for me, like, how do you get this? So I'll leave it at that. I think it'll be interesting, but also I will paraphrase what Nelly said. They might be doing a bit too much with monks. Instead of slowly introducing these things over the last couple of months, they just went and everything all at once, and where maybe just the devotion tech would have been enough. And so we shall see how it plays out on that. I'm sure some people, there's going to be people angry about it and some people happy about it. To be seen. It's at least for me, it's a buff and a nerf at different times of the game, if I look at it on paper. So we shall see how it plays out.
We shall see.
Then, to quickly finish off with the balance changes, something that I've not seen many people talk about is the faster Cavalier research. It's being decreased to 80 seconds, which also is a big Burgundians buff if you think about it, because they get Cavalier in Castle Age.
So what was it previously?
100 seconds.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's a big thing. I think it might go a bit under the radar, because it does. It means in 1v1s you get Cavalier faster, which means we might see more Cavs played. I don't know. Apparently, according to some, the meta is only archers and stuff. So it's
and monks. Don't
that.
Forget the monks.
Yes, and monks.
Yeah.
So I think it will be in team games. It's gonna have a big impact.
It's it's finally the cavalry Cavalry is coming back on this patch. Monk being nerfed, Cavaliers getting buffed. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then something we're getting, which is not a balance change, but which is nice. And something I think potentially should have been added a long time ago is extended unit stats, where they will show you what do you call it, like how fast a unit moves or its rate of fire and its minimum range. So like that is, I think that's a really good upcoming change, and it also adds another skill level to the game for people to when click like for it because of the way the game works. Like if you click on an enemy villager, you can see how fast that villager is gathering wood, and then you can, based on that value, see if they click double axe or bow or something.
Really strong, real smart.
So it's kind of like the being able to you see the cost of spies in Castle Age with your castle, and then you can, like, if you can do that quick maths, figure out how many, if your opponent is booming, but you don't always have a castle. But I think personally, I think it adds another layer to skill of being able to check, and now for people to know, oh, a villager gathers wood at 0.36 second, which I don't think many people know. I think I got that one wrong, like the number wrong, but like it's noticing
people will
these
just
things.
Know the numbers by heart, like learn, okay, what's the number for double beat axe, what's the regular number, and what's the number for boso.
Yeah.
I don't need the rest. And they'll say, okay, they have double beat axe, or okay, they have decided not to do double beat axe though, so maybe I'm in trouble, or maybe they just forgot
Or
it.
they forgot
I think
about
it's
it. Yeah.
it's not a huge thing, or maybe like wheelbarrow as well, because it's gonna be like the speed increase, so you can tell the villager speed and everything really quickly, getting an idea of like what is your opponent's economy looking like.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but it's like a really cool use of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be funny when we see ladder games, and I don't know, Viper's going to be sending a chat to Nikov and tell him to get double bit axe a minute 50.
And then, just to lead us out of this, I have a question to you guys. What do you think is the best balance change that we got this year, given that we are at the end of it?
The best balance change?
Well, in your opinion, or best change made to the game?
Okay.
Whatever you think.
As someone that used to love Inkas and the trash aspect, and I know a lot of people didn't enjoy that kind of like cheese. I love the change to Hussite wagons and Hussites getting their moment, especially after Hera called them the worst unique unit in the game. I don't know. There was someone over there at Forgotten Empires that took that very personally. I was like we gotta. This can't be going on, guys. We have the makings of a very good unit, and oh boy, did they make them good! And let's see what they're going to be like after these balance changes are coming up as well. This is usually how units work. They usually have them like too weak, then they make them too strong, and then it's like, okay, we'll make them just right now. Kind of same thing with like Hindustanis. I think like villagers too cheap. Okay, not cheap enough. Now they found the mid ground, and hopefully that will be just right.
Thousands?
I had a few ideas when you said the biggest or best change. I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna say Georgians, but no, actually, I think in this recent patch there is something that like the extended unit stats. I think is a really cool change. Because I think what is important as well for the game to remain alive and healthy for a long period of time is that new players that get into playing multiplayer or even playing solo and then they swap to multiplayer is something that enables that facilitates the entry into the multiplayer because we want the scene to keep growing and all that. And I think lowering the barrier of entry with things that are very simple like that, by showing more of the unit stats, is a very good thing. So like obviously I think it can be like and I don't know yet how it's done, and I think it can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Like if it's too overwhelming, you don't want to keep playing. But also the game has so many hidden stats. Like this unit does that amount of damage against that armor class, and that's why spears counter horses or this kind of stuff. So I don't know the extent of everything that's going to be available on the extended unit stats, but I think it will. It's important to kind of bridge that gap, and that you are able to tell at glance, oh, this unit is faster than that other unit, and I didn't know that. And okay, like what's the speed of my unit, and what is that other thing? What's the rate of fire? I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be really applicable always, but I think it's good to. It feels like you know more of what's going on if you have access to those stats, and it's less of a black box. And I think that can contribute to uh, lowering the barrier of entry. So I think that would be my pick.
I think that's a nice point, to be honest.
Mm.
Because it's always like a major comment about H2 that, or RTS in general. I think that it can be quite a large barrier for like an entry and coming in and being like, it's not a game that you can just pick up and be good very instantly, or not for most people.
Yeah,
They're not adding the attack bonuses, like like spearmen doing this much more against cavalry, but that could be a potential future change that they add. Might be a bit overwhelming, but I'm sure if they want to add it, they'll figure it out.
Panda,
Yeah.
do you got
Mine.
a favorite?
This is kind of because they are my favorite Forgotten Civ. Inca's getting a couple patches ago. They got a food discount on all their military units, and their team bonus changed to the free llama that they get. Everyone on their team gets, and I've always had like a soft spot for Incas as a standard civ, not whether like I know you like the
We like them for
paradoxes,
different reasons, but we do. Like
yeah,
the Civ.
exactly. I'm always, when at least where I like I talked about earlier, like I'm usually the weakest player on my team, so I'm fine taking a weaker civ. But they're not a weak civ, because if you think on a flank situation, they get Arb, they get Thumbring, they get Helps, they get siege rams with siege engineers, right? And now this just adds another bonus. Oh, I'm giving all my teammates 100 extra food at the start, which I like. It's like such a small thing, but I like those, like something small contributing to the team extra, and it's gonna become meta in the future. I know people are gonna say I'm on copium now, but Incas and Chinese flank, it's gonna become a future thing. Also with the new Chinese change, right? And it's gonna be the best flank combo, and I'll take the copiums
Okay,
reactions from people for it.
There's still a pretty
Well.
decent flank. We'll see. I think
Yeah.
top tier is saying something. I think
Top tier combo, as they might not be, Mayans or an
I think
Incas.
Britain's Mayans destroy
it's
that, but
I believe.
Ethiopians.
Yeah, but
If they're that good, they will be getting taken first or second in the draft. It's something to keep an eye on.
I think it's a really underrated change. Potentially, although I know this.
I don't think it was underrated. Suddenly they became the best in the game.
I think they were underrated. Then this happened, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
we have Incas. Like, I was never, if I got Incas, I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy with this. Not for the Trush regions, because I felt like, oh yeah, they're just a nice, smooth and fun civ to play, for me at least. So yeah.
Why go for the fun and smoothness when you can go for chaos?
Agreed.
I know.
It's a fair point, isn't it?
I'm just not a chaos player. I'm just gonna blame it on my ping. I always play on 200 ping, so I can't do chaos.
Okay, now you're coping hard.
Okay,
let's move on to NAC5, our final topic of the day. I'm going to zoom through the first couple of things, and then we can kind of cover the predictions. So let's have a quick look at the support We're up to nearly, I say we, but we're up to nearly $24,000. Nilly has a goal of 76,000. So this is without the Microsoft money, essentially. This is money that he has to raise, either from like sponsors or community like fundraising and whatnot. So that's pretty much a third of the way there when qualifiers have only just started. That's pretty good going. Obviously, he's going to need... I guess he could dip into like savings and whatnot, then replenish the money afterwards if that's what he's going to do, if he felt like he was like close enough. But that is a very, very good start. Qualifiers started 2 days ago.
Yesterday. That was the first set. Yeah.
I think technically started.
Nobody's.
Yeah, it was technically on the day before, but no one had actually scheduled yet. So the first ones are ongoing. Quite a few people have been streaming that one. Nelly as well. Meetup tickets went on sale today. Slight disaster, and Nelly didn't have any payment details, or sorry, any payment options on the meetup. So if you like seeing Nelly sweat, guys, that is one to go and check out on the VOD for sure, because Nelly was sweating hard. And I think most people that were trying to buy tickets was also the same thing. I think it was like bank transfer went up first, and then he eventually got PayPal on, and then I think he was like wanting to take bank transfer back off because it was like telling people to go off the site and do it that way. So I got my tickets. Most other people got tickets in the end. Should be absolutely fine. One major thing to touch on here, I think, is the format. Oh, hang on, I've lost the draft. And the draft is crazy. I'm on Twitter here. There's a lot of map bans, guys, and a lot of civ bans.
Yes.
So we have, I guess, 10 admin bans. They then pick maps.
12.
12 admin bans. They then pick maps, which obviously has a lot of map bans as well, because the map pool is huge. My first general comments on the map pool is I'm not overly convinced by it right now. I think we're missing a few type of maps. Don't have like, we have Northern Crossings now, which has like little crossings between, but Northern Isles is a little bit more in the chaos side. We don't really have a water map, no nomad map this time. There's a couple of things, and then quite a few maps that are kind of Arabia-like, but that's my opinion. But it does have some interesting maps as well. I like the look of Copenhagen, which is a regicide one that has some water mixed in. We have normal arena now, thank God, after Hippo Arena. The disaster Hippo Arena. I'm allowed to say that because Bazzy, the map creator, the map was a joke. It was literally submitted as a joke and somehow made it into the main event. But yeah, we'll kind of see how things go on. I don't know with qualifiers how they're going to go, if we're going to see any major upsets, but there's going to be a lot of people wanting to get into NAC5 with it being the last one, especially the likes of Doubt and Jordan. Probably Doubt is the person who wants to qualify the most after missing out on the last one as a player. He was there in the end.
Yeah, I think so. Alt has a complicated history with NEC as well, so.
Are you really alluding to the cast there? Is that what you're angling for?
Oh, I mean, he didn't qualify for NEC2, I think. Maybe he made it, but he lost in the first qualifier, or I don't know. Like there was so like no, he was invited in first one, and then the second one, I think he lost to Stark. Yeah, he lost to Stark, and so he had to qualify in the second one.
And then he lost again? No,
he didn't. He eventually made it, but there was like a risk that he wouldn't make it.
Can't remember. I just remember that's the Ian Fire casted a set, and it's the only NAC set to not make it onto YouTube.
Which I've never saw, unfortunately, so I don't have the full scoop in that one. Which is a shame.
I think I tuned out of it. It was just not. For me, if I remember, it was.
I think it
was not.
I think it led to an alcohol kind of ban when you were casting
Yes,
and
it
whatnot.
did. It definitely did for NAC3.
Yeah.
It was really like it. It didn't feel like I like it wasn't. At least it wasn't my scene. It was. It's almost no. It's not like yeah. It was. It's just it went too far. I, um. I felt like, but
Well,
yeah, it's it
what?
happened.
Well,
So
it might. Somebody else might have went too far, but we also know that Nelly is also someone that has the potential to go a little bit too far in jokes. So that's very keeping in theme, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, shall
Yeah,
we have
that
a
is
look?
true.
Shall we have a look at the bracket then?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
heckin' stacked. So let's look at the first section. And this is going to be on Tato's side. There's a lot of very good players here. We can see the higher seeded players are kind of like in the first side. So we've got Tato, Kingston, Vivi, Dogal, Nikov, Daniel, Barrels, and Kapoch. Only one player is going to make it out them, and you have Betnir, Dragonstar, Lobo, Kazva, Bantkoala, Mihai, Dr. Cosmonaut, and Sorakuma as the lower seeds. But poof, that could
Yeah, the
be
level is really high.
a really tough one. And I'm probably expecting Tato Vivi on the top side and Barrows Nikov. And it's kind of like only one of those players is going to get out of that bracket.
I'm seeing Taro Dogao and Nikov Barles, and then Tato Nikov, and Taro wins. But I think Nikov is gonna give him like a good run for his money. Like I could see like a 4-2 in the best of 7 round 6. And I think Nikov takes revenge over Barles after losing 3-0 during Warlords by beating him in the round of 12.
Oh, that's gonna go. I think Baldur is going to like beat Nikov again. That's what I'm thinking.
I would not be surprised if Barles lost to Kapoch, to be honest. But
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see. He's been in
that's
great shape. But
how I
this
see
bottom
it.
part is
Is
like really, really close.
at least how I see it is if Balls beats Kapoch, he beats Nikov. That's how I feel see it for this bracket, and then Tato is just gonna kind of cruise through to the main event.
Yeah.
You would expect so, but the other caliber of players there could make things tricky for him. And if he's on a bad day and the other guys are on a very good day, then there could be a world that Tato does not make it.
Maybe
It's crazy, yeah, because I think the level is so high nowadays. Like Taro is insanely good. Like there is a point to say he might be like even number 2 in the world at the moment. You know, like he went in finals of Warlords. He won the Warlords Invitational before that. He has been very consistent against Yo, against Viper. Hasn't played too much against Leary, I think. Maybe in TTL. But yeah, he's been performing excellent. But yeah, like it's just best of 5 against an inspired VV or Dogao. It could drop games or even like a set. And then yeah, Nikov, Balls, Capuch a little bit less, but like all 3 of these guys are really, really strong. So yeah, who knows? I
Yeah,
think he's the heavy favorite though, and
he
I
is,
don't see him
but he needs to
choke
be on
this
top of
one.
his
I
game.
think he has this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tato's mindset seems to have improved a lot in the last kind of, I think, 18 months or so. I'd say that's
Yeah, since winning
since winning.
Legacy, I think. Well, since Legacy where he won, yeah.
He used to have a bit of a reputation for being the bridesmaid and never the bride. I don't know if you're familiar
Yeah,
with
like he
that
had this
phrase.
crazy set of losing in decider games for like 15 matches in a row, something like that. That was crazy.
Yeah, it seems to have overcame that, and he's absolute
Yeah.
beast. Okay, let's look at the second, and that's going to be Jordan's. So the top seeds in this one is Jordan, Ganji, Freaking Andy, Sebastian, Valessa, Dark, ACCM, and Valis. And I think when I look at this one, the obvious candidates are going to be Jordan, Velez, and ECM, but then you have like Valis in there as well, Andy. It's a tough one. And then you have even like second seeds, Miguel, or lower seeds, sorry, Miguel and Rapard. That's there's gonna be some tough games there.
Yeah. I think this is the closest bracket to everything. I'm super interested in seeing how Sebastian does. I feel like he's been on the rise over the past couple of months. He won his group in T90's Titanic Gold, where he was against he beat Nikov and Hart, for example. So really good wins for him. And yeah, he's probably gonna be against Andy the next round, so another up and comer, probably a little bit more accomplished so far, but that should be like a great set, and then probably face against Jordan. I think for me, this is very close. I would see a CCM win this one, but yeah, hard to say. I think Villasay, Jordan also have like a very solid chance.
I think
ACCM, who was there last time. It's tough. Really tough.
I think
I don't see Valis challenge them though. I think
No.
Valis has fallen off a little bit.
I would agree. I don't see him challenging, but then you have someone like Andy there now as well. I can see realistically 4 people qualifying. It's probably Jordan, Andy, Velez, and ACCM.
I think the winner of Velez or ACCM is going to be the one to go through in this bracket.
Don't underestimate Jordan.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we keep underestimating Jordan, and he keeps still delivering.
Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what he's gonna do. It'll be.
Yeah.
I think the round of 12 games and most of the brackets are going to be very, very good. If you like project, Jordan, Andy, Velez, ACCM, and then obviously round of 6 is going to be huge. We're going to best of 7.
Yeah.
It's once you get past this round of 48 and round of 24, the games are going to be very, very high level for sure. There's going to be certainly this opening round some stompy games. Jordan versus MOR and Valessa versus Ozone isn't going to be overly competitive. But once we get through them,
but even those sets
there's still very high level players, but there's just a huge gap.
Like, yeah, it's like Ozone is like 2K4, I think. Or
yeah
2K2 at the moment, but higher 2436. The level is really high. It's
There's certainly players that will still make you sweat.
Out of all the 48 players that made it, MOR is the only one who doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet.
Jeez.
That says a lot, I think.
Sheesh. Feels bad, man. Wonder what that feels like. Okay, let's move on to the third bracket. This is going to be Doubt's one. So higher seeded than this is Doubt, Classic Pro, MBL, Heart, Sito, Running, Vinchester, Margugu. What the hell, man? And then for second seeds, you got Berry, Fire, El Matador, Overtaken, Siscon. How's that for pronunciation?
Yeah, Siscon.
Okay, that's fine. Slam, Jebutong, and Uzi from Mexico. That is a stacked bracket, guys. That is super, super tough.
Yeah.
Doubt will have to be on his best if he wants to beat MBL. I think it's going to be his likely opponent.
But
assuming they both advance
that
far.
He should have. Doubt should. I don't want to say a free pass, but he's got a much easier route to the round to 12 than MBL does, because MBL and Hart potentially meeting straight away in that second round that's a tough one.
Yeah,
that is a tough one.
And then at the bottom half, Slam's gonna run away with this whole bracket. Totally. In my heart, it's gonna be Slam and ACCM. They'll be at the LAN or at NAC.
Oh, that would be
Magical
cute.
Duo.
I'm going. If both of them make it, I'm going.
I'll rob a bank and then I join you. if they both make it.
I think you can,
Realistically,
I think you can
I
commit
don't think
to
Slam will make it.
yeah. I think you can commit to saying you can go if they both make it, and not have to give any more context.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels very unlikely.
realistically,
Slam is a lower seed even in his first round match,
yeah,
which is
and
wild.
I would
I would say
favor
I would
him.
always favor him against Running, but maybe in
Yeah,
2023 Running is actually favored against Slam, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know who the maps favor. I feel
I
tempted
think
to say Slam.
Slam is a very well-rounded player.
Yeah, Slam is
mhm.
very good on the close maps, and I think he will always like eat Running for breakfast on like open maps. So I think it's probably in his favor. Yeah, on this bracket, I think Doubt is the easy favorite, but I don't think he's gonna make it. I have a hunch that Doubt is not gonna make it through this bracket. I don't know if it's gonna be MBL in the round of 12. If he chokes against Winchester in the round of 6. Escape Euro LAN is another case of Doubt choking in qualifiers to LAN events. He lost against Winchester twice in those qualifiers. And Winchester never made it in the end. Winchester lost against MBL and lost against Taro in both times in the qualifying match. But Doubt also was upset by Winchester twice on those. So I could see him lose again against Winchester there. But then again, I would see him beat Sito. So if Sito beats Winchester and then Doubt plays against Sito, I could see Doubt win. Hard to say. MBL hard, also very dangerous. Could go all the way.
I don't think for Hard yet. He still has some things to work out a bit.
I don't think he's ready either.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I feel like he wants to show people that he can be like as good as he is. I think he's like extra motivated. But yeah, I also think MBL is favorite in this set.
I actually think Hart will beat MBL, but I think he'll lose to Doubt.
Interesting. Yeah, it also happened.
That's what I'd be going for, and I'm still going to say Doubt makes it. I think nobody's going to be more motivated than him. Last one didn't make the last one. I guess if he doesn't make it, he'll probably still be there anyway. But the big wild card is Winchester, and you kind of never know what kind of Winchester you're going to get.
Yeah. He can play top 5 on his best days and like
And
top
beat
50 on his worst days.
Yeah, and he can challenge the people in the top 40. You know, if not win a series, depending on how it goes. It's
like you see this bracket, I could see him beat Doubt. I could also see him lose against Jibatong. But maybe not Jibatong, but Margu. Say Margu or Uzi next round, I could see him lose there.
Mm.
I think that's a bit too like I can see him lose to Sito. He'll beat Slam. He just always beats Slam.
He always beats
Slam. Yeah, I don't know why. But I think, but I don't think like Gugu or Jibatong or even Uzi would be too much of a threat for Vinch, at least. But round of 12, it's where he'll start getting his. It can go either way depending on which Vinch shows up on the day.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes players a couple of rounds to just get into the swing of things, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, maybe even wins makes it all the way to the main event. Like, he definitely has the ability to. Though I also think potentially, like, stylistically, if he like meets MBL, it favors MBL. But doubt it's again one of those where it can go either way. But we'll see how it plays out over this week.
We will see. Yep.
It's this week. It's only this week, right?
I would need to check.
I
Qualifiers.
This weekend. Yeah.
in December, yeah, this week for the first qualifiers,
Okay.
and then this the next week.
And then we'll be on to the main event into January, which finishes up on the 14th or something. So we'll probably try and have the next episode after NEC is finished. But I think gents, that'll be us for today. I think we're a good 2.5 hours or something there. So if you did tune in for the full thing, very much appreciated. And I guess we'll be seeing everybody in the next one. Any final thoughts or final thoughts and goodbyes from both? The final thoughts can be just a goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening. Please do let us know what we can do to improve podcast if you've made so far. And yeah, see you in the next one.
Just enjoy playing the game. That's that's what I have. That's why, at least that's why I'm here. I'm still having fun. I've been playing for almost 20 years. No, actually, no, 18 years is closer to it. But I'm still there. So just keep enjoying it, everyone. And have a lovely Christmas and New Year's. And we'll see you next year.
And on that note, couldn't have said any better myself. See you in the next one.